Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. As usual, I have a lot of fun in store for you. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on DIY spring home decor using mostly Dollar Tree supplies. So let's get started with project number 1. So for this project, I'm going to be using these 3 signs from Dollar Tree. Now, 2 of them are the same size, and then 1 of them is a little bit bigger. And of course, now I'm just kind of removing all the plastic off of them. And then I'll take off, really only need to take off paper around the edges, but I got just like a little bit sand happy with my electric sander, so I pretty much got like all of it off. But, you know, just around the edges, or you can leave it on and just paper right over it. I want to go ahead and prep first by using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth and go all the way around the sides and then around the front and back just a little bit. And then I got this from Hobby Lobby. It's Woodpile brand, 99 cents, although now I think it's like $1.29, and it's an arrow. It comes in 2 pieces like that. And I've already cut my paper, but I'm going to show you on this arrow what I did is I traced around it, and then I went in maybe like 1/8 of an inch and I redrew a new perimeter, and that is the pattern I'm going to cut out. That way, when I lay it on my wood, a little bit of that wood will show around the perimeter. You could cover the top completely, especially if you don't remove like all the paper and stuff on your signs. You know, you could cover it completely, but you know, I did this process on the signs as well, so that's why the paper came off around the edges. This is what it would look like with that little bit of wood showing. I just like that look, allows the paper to pop up a little bit. I'll do the same with the tail part of the arrow, of course. And then these are the papers I chose for the 3 signs. Like I said, I've already got them cut out and ready to go. Here they are. I've sewn around the edges and everything on them. And I am choosing to cover all the sides. You don't have to. You could just cover the front if you just want a piece of design paper on the front of it. These are them all cut out. I'll show you what it would look like just on the front, like this, or you could just paint the whole thing and not even put paper on it. But, you know, your choice how you like it. This is what I did on sewing. Those of you might be new to my channel. I just sew with a size 10 or 11 needle, depending on what comes in the manufacturer. My stitch length set on 4, my tension set on 4. I use all polyester thread. That's what my machine likes, but cotton thread works just fine too. And I sew on it just like it's fabric. Goes through nice and easy, and it just adds that nice little subtle kind of country farmhouse look. And then what I like to do, take the open end of my scissor blades and I scrape around the edges of the paper. That kind of rustics the edges up a little bit, as you can see. And that way it helps kind of that paper as well to pop up off of that wood a little bit. It just doesn't fall flat on that wood. This is what it would look like with and without everything that I've done. So you can choose what style that you like best. Okay, I always tend to sew, and once, warning, you start sewing and doing this, you can't seem to get away from it. It looks plain if you don't do it. So here I am. Now we're moving on to the painting stage. Hadn't quite done that yet. Like you see here, I'm going around the edges. I really don't need to cover the whole sides completely, but it's just a small area. I just end up doing it. But just around the edges like you see here, because again, you're only going to have like that 1/8 of an inch showing a little bit. All right, so now what I want to do is take all my papers. I've taken that drop cloth paint, watered it down, taking my fan brush, I dip it into that paint, I wipe the excess off on the paper, and then I just tap my fan brush just nice and easy like this to just allow some real small, subtle splatters. I like doing it this way versus using the toothbrush where you drag your thumb across it, that kind of thing. It's easy. So for this part, I've used my Cricut Explorer 3 machine. I will have the fonts listed in the description box. You could use stencils on here. You could use stickers. You could write it on however you like to do it. You could print it off on your paper if you want to design it on your computer in like a Word program. Print it off on your paper before you cut your paper out to fit your pieces of wood. I used to do that all the time before I got a cutting machine. And I know I've used this quote before, and I often will reuse quotes because, you know, you all know I like to sell my things at craft shows, and so I just like different designs. Maybe has the same quote, but different designs. So this one, of course, says, to the bunny trail. And we'll go ahead and start gluing everything on once those quotes are on there. And I know like Dollar Tree has, I also, let me back up, distressed around the edges a little bit with some sandpaper once I painted it. I know Dollar Tree has like plain print stencils, and then they also have like cursive type stencils. So you could use that option too if you like how this is, you know, printed on a couple of boards and then kind of cursive writing on the last board, just to give it that little bit of, you know, decorative definition. So again, covering around all my edges, sides. And again, you don't have to do this, but it's just kind of what I like. I'm not going to glue the signs together. That way they can be stacked any way that you want them. Well, you want them stacked in order of the quote, but you could stack them straight. You could stack them a little bit crooked. You could go side by side if you want, like one long sign if you want to place it just really long, you know, long length of like a fireplace mantle, that kind of thing. If you're short on space, you could stack them up vertical. Whatever works for you. So it's just taking a little bit of time here, getting all our pieces glued on. Love using Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. That's what I'm using here today. It's my favorite glue of choice. I always have a link in the description box where you can go straight to the Beacon site itself. You can find it in the normal craft stores. Really proud of their prices though, so you might want to use a coupon. Getting everything ready onto my arrows. I'm covering front and back of the arrows as well, because a little bit of that arrow can be seen from the back side. And then going ahead and just gluing this on there. I love how this arrow is broken up for you, so it kind of is a little fun and cute. So I want to add a little bit more design to our sign by making some ears. Now we did this process a couple of videos ago when we did that Easter ear bouquet. But we're going to do it again. So I'm using the 18 gauge wire again. I like this gauge because it's, you know, not too stiff, but stiff enough. I believe it's about 10 inches in length, and I just put it into like, you know, an ear shape, and then start using twine, wrapping it around the wire. I've got a clamp on one end so that end will, you know, glue nice and tight and dry on the ear as we're continuing to glue and wrap the twine all the way around the wire. And I'm gluing all the way down the wire, just so this twine doesn't move. And I'm leaving about a 1/2 inch on each end without any twine on it. We want bare wire down near the end. And then when I get down to this end here, I'm going to clamp it too. Let that set up. And then if you look up in the upper left corner, you'll see both ears done. Now I'm going to take my drill here, and I've got a drill bit that's about the same diameter as the wire, and I'm going to drill, you know, 2 little holes for each ear. Now if you don't have a drill bit, you could use like a nail, you know, and hammer the nail, you know, part way down into the wood and then pull it back out to make a hole for yourself, right? And then I'm using, this is what it looks like here, and I'm actually used some super glue, some gel super glue, because I figured that would stay in place better, and popping these down into the wood, and then it'll, you know, set up really, really quick. The Fabri-Tac would have worked fine too, but I don't know why I just chose super glue. Here's what it looks like. Still looks a little plain. Let's add a little more to it. I'm going to add a little bow here on the left ear. And then I've got a couple of flowers here that are match the paper I'm using, and a little burlap butterfly. You could use flowers from Dollar Tree, of course. They have flowers there. Paper flowers, paper butterflies. And I'm just going to add these around the bow, add the little butterfly up above that. And then once I do that, you know it, this project is complete. So let's move on to project number 2. For this project from Dollar Tree, I'm going to use this unfinished wood piece. Of course, it looks like a little mini cutting board. And then I have a little wood tag left over. You don't have to use anything at all here. I'm going to use this for my quote, so it raises it off the cutting board. But you could also use a piece of foam board or cardboard if you want to do the same kind of process. Of course, I'm using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth, one of my favorite shades because I love it's just kind of creamy, kind of beigey off-white tone. And I'll just paint around the perimeter, both sides of the cutting board and around this tag. And then I lost the footage of this next part. I'm sorry, I don't know where it went, but I basically traced the cutting board, onto the paper I wanted to use, cut it out, sewed around the perimeter of everything, and then distressed around the edges like I normally do on all my projects and that, I'm doing on my other projects today. So we're just going ahead using the Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. I've got the back covered completely, and in the front I cut my paper a little bit short so that you see the wood around the perimeter a little bit. And I'm using 2 layers here just to kind of give it a little bit of texture. And this is the quote I'm using here. I got it off of Cricut. It was an image already done. I just added a little heart to it. I'll have that image number in my description box. You, of course, could use any quote here that you want, paint it on letter stickers. You could print it off from your computer, design something on your computer, print it off onto the cardstock before you cut it out. That works wonderful too. And I'm just adding this to that piece of wood here, like I said earlier, so it kind of raises it up, in the center, gives it a little bit more attention. And I've just got a bow here from some ribbon that I got at Walmart and a little white twine that I get at Walmart as well. And I've already added a couple beads, so we'll add the final bead onto that other tail. We'll set it aside for a second. I'm going to go ahead and glue down my little ribbon bow here and get that setting into place. And then we'll go back to our twine bow here. So I've got a couple of different beads here on here, and I'm just figuring out how long I want my tails. And then once I do that, of course, I'll tie a knot in one end and cut off the excess so our beads don't fall off. I just love adding in this kind of detailing. It's easy to do, and it adds, to such a small piece like this. I love doing mini projects like this because, you kind of get your craft on. Doesn't take much time, and it will nestle in any vignette, any spring vignette really cutely. So we're going to glue this onto the front of our other bow. And then I'm going to add a burlap butterfly here. I got these in a package of butterflies at Michael's a long time ago, but I know Dollar Tree has packages of paper butterflies, that would look really cute. I'm going to glue this on the front, and once I do that, this project is complete. So let's move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, I found a 2-pack of these 4-inch diameter styrofoam balls at Walmart. It was just a couple of dollars. It'd be nice if you had a smaller and a larger one, but these were both same size. I'm going with it. And for each ball, I got 4 sets of these Boxwood picks. Boxwood picks I got at Walmart. They were $1.07 a piece. You're going to need 8 sets total. And something for the center like this dowel or maybe 2 popsicle sticks together. You want them nice and sturdy. Or like a paint stick, maybe not as thick as this, but a paint stick you can cut down. I'm going to use some LED lights from Dollar Tree. I started out maybe going to use this bucket from Dollar Tree. I ended up changing it. I'll show you that. And some textured spray paint. Now, if you don't have spray paint, you could do like a paint and put sand in it so it's textured if you want that look. And then I'm going to use one of these wooden little signs. They come in a pack of this size at like Hobby Lobby, but you could use these from Dollar Tree. And the size I'm using is just a little over 5 inches. And then you could use even maybe these little eggs from Dollar Tree as a sign, some 18 gauge wire again, and some of this felt from Dollar Tree. We're going to be making some ears for this project, and I chose 2 fabric colors. You can choose one color if you want, or if you don't want to have to choose it all. Remember this Easter bag from Dollar Tree we've been using to make some ears for our last few videos, so you could certainly use that, and some ribbon. I don't know at this point which ribbon I'll be using, but we'll see later on which one I choose. You're going to need some long needle nose pliers as well as some regular scissors and something like a skewer that you can poke holes with in the styrofoam, and our boxwood picks. Now you begin just by pulling off all these pieces off of your picks. And remember, you're going to need 4 picks total for each ball, and this is a 4-inch diameter ball. So, and what we'll start out first with is cutting off the little fat end, and then each of these little pieces has like 4 sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, just like that. And what we're going to do is kind of cut it right in between the second and third section. But when you cut it, make sure you leave a little stem right there. Okay, it'll be easier to poke it into our styrofoam with little stems on the bottom. Make sure you leave a little bit of stem, and when you cut it in the center, leave a little bit of a stem. Okay, you're going to do that on all your greenery pieces, and it's a lot to go through. But like I said, if you have a smaller ball, you'll need less picks. Boxwood picks, but I can't tell you how many you'll need because all I know is for this size ball. So what we'll start by doing is taking the skewer, poking a hole, and then taking your needle nose pliers, and you're going to take that little piece of pick just like this, and you're going to shove it down into the styrofoam. Okay, till you kind of touch the leaves of your little pieces here. Now I'm going about 1/2 inch away from each poke because since my styrofoam ball is green, I can do that. Now if you have a white styrofoam ball, you might want to buy more boxwood picks so that you can put them closer together, or maybe think about painting your ball green. And so poke the hole with the skewer and then take your needle nose pliers and shove that down into that styrofoam. You're going to do this process all the way around, of course, until you get down near the bottom. I'll show you that here in just a minute. So poke a hole again one more time, grab your little pick and your needle nose pliers and shove that down into the hole. It takes about an hour to do this each ball, so you might want to watch TV and do this. It takes a little bit, but it looks so cute in the end, well worth the effort. Okay, so back, you can do this all the way around to get down to the bottom, and you leave about a 2-inch opening where you put no greenery. Okay, so here is one ball already done, and you can see a little bit of space in there, but it's okay because the ball's green all the way around, and here's my little 2-inch diameter circle opening. All right, so we're going to move on to the bucket. This was the bucket I was originally going to use, but I found these at Dollar Tree, and this one as well, so you got some choices. I like that it didn't have a handle on it, but this one I really like. It's a 2-pack, it's plastic. I love the scallop on it. So back to the balls. Here's both of them done. Both of them have a little 2-inch opening. You can see a hole already poked in it with the skewer. I'll come to that in a minute. What we're going to end up doing is we want no greenery there, so we can glue it together like that. Now see how this would have looked better with like maybe one larger and one smaller ball, but they're both the same size. Again, we're going with it. Let's put those aside and go to work on some ears. So I drew mine. They're about 7.5 inches tall. I wanted tall ears, about 2.5 inches at the widest width, but you might want to go shorter ears. It's your design, what you want to do. So here's the order and what we need. You need 2 pieces of fabric if you're using 2 colors. You need 2 pieces of fabric for both colors. I chose this green because I thought it looked nice with the greenery of the boxwood picks. And don't worry, they won't be that wrinkly in the end. And then you need 4 pieces of felt. Okay. And then, of course, what we're going to do end up is 1 piece of fabric, a piece of felt. You're going to come in again with this 18 gauge wire cut to fit the size of your ears, your long or short ears. And then we'll put another piece of felt over top of that and your piece of fabric over the top of that. That's the layering. You can use hot glue or Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. You know, I'll take mine to the sewing machine. If you're a hot gluer, you're going to add glue around your piece of fabric and lay your felt down. Then you're going to hot glue your ear on. I forgot, you do need a stick. I've got these coffee stir sticks, or a popsicle stick will work, because we need to glue that in as well. And then glue your felt on top of that, and your fabric piece on top of that. We need that stick because we got to have something to poke into our styrofoam, right? So here's what I'm doing. I'm just spot gluing with my Fabri-Tac. So spot glued my felt down. Then we're bringing in the wire. Then we'll glue that wire down. And then we'll bring in our popsicle stick or coffee stir stick at the bottom. Glue that in. And then we're going to add some more glue on top of our wire. And then we're going to place our other piece of felt down on top of that. And then we're going to glue the other piece of fabric on top of that. We're sandwiching everything in between. I'm going to take mine to the sewing machine. That coffee stir stick was so thin, I was actually able to sew through that stick. I had to kind of use my knob on the side of the machine versus my foot pedal, but I'd like make a stitch and then I would lift up the thing to move my ear, put it back down, lift up the foot, turn it a stitch, lift up the foot, move my ear, put it back down, turn it a stitch, but by golly, I did it. And I think it looks pretty good. Now, back to the ear. If you end up using that Easter bucket, that fabric of that Easter bucket for your ear, remember we did this in the last video, you have to pull the fabric apart and then you can glue your wire inside and then glue the ear back together, but it is doable. Okay, so now I want to distress my ear. I'm just pulling on the threads of the fabric here just to kind of, distress a little bit. And then my sign ear, I decided I wanted to cut about 1 inch off of it, so I'm just using my craft knife and a ruler and cutting that, and then I'll snap it apart, and then I'm going to go ahead and just sand it a little bit, and I'm kind of curving the edges as I sand to, match the other side of the sign. And then I'm going to bring in this drop cloth paint again and just kind of paint around the edges and cover that up. And then I've cut my paper for it already here. I haven't sewn around the edges yet. What I want to do though first is take my We Are Memory Keepers, Crocodile corner chomper. It's got 2 sizes here. And what it is it's closed like this. You open it, and I'm going to use the 1/4 inch side. I'm going to tuck that pointy end in and then chomp it, and it'll make my nice rounded corners. I'll find a link on Amazon for you if you like this tool. I'm going to do this on both of my pieces of paper here. And then I'll just show a little bit, take it to the sewing machine like my other projects, and sew around the edges of both my papers. And then, of course, I'll distress around the edges as well with my scissor blades just to show you I've done it. We'll go ahead and glue one side of our paper on. And before we glue the other side on, I want to see where I'm going. Lay this on the bucket for a minute. I want to get some holes in this. So I'm just kind of marking where I want my holes at the top. I'm doing it about 1 inch in from each side. And then I'll use my crocodile here and, punch a couple of holes. And then what I want to do is add some wire to make it look like, we're wiring it to the bucket. So I'm using some Dollar Tree black wire here. You find this in like the automotive section. I just cut off, 8 inches, something like that. And I'm just wrapping it around the end of a paintbrush to twirl it up. And then I'm going to poke it through the hole we just made. And then I've got some double stick tape here. And then I'll just double stick tape it on the back. Or stick it. I guess we're not double sticking it. We're just sticking it down. And then because I can use that double stick tape as part of our adhesive. We'll pull up the little pieces here. And Dollar Tree has double stick tape as well. And then we'll go ahead and glue on the back side the other piece of our paper. Now, this is another quote I did from Cricut. It was an already done image, but I had to kind of slice it up because it came vertical and I wanted it horizontal. But, again, as I always say, letter stickers, stencils, you can print it on your paper before you cut it out, anything like that. But I will have the image number down below of, which one I used from Cricut for this. Just get it onto our sign, and then we're going to go back now to get our wire back in place, and we're going to go back to our greenery balls here. You want to use like white school glue for this, okay? Because Fabri-Tac or hot glue, it's going to melt our styrofoam. So I'm putting white glue on the end of one of my dowels, probably about 3 inches there, and I'm going to poke it into a pre-poked hole that I did with a skewer. And I did a skewer as a pre-poked hole so that when you put that dowel in, because the dowel's bigger, it'll have resistance, but it won't be so hard to poke that dowel in, right? And I'm adding glue onto the styrofoam and more onto the center of that dowel. Pre-poked a hole here. Now you want to pre-poke this hole all the way through. I'm going to show you here. See, all the way through one ball. The first ball, you only want the poked down about 3 inches. This one you want all the way through. And again, I use the skewer because it's smaller in diameter than the dowel so that the dowel will have resistance when it goes through the styrofoam. You can see here I've got glue on the styrofoam here, and you're going to take this and slide it all the way down on that dowel until it meets the other ball. And here's what it looks like. Okay, and I'm going to add a little glue just right down here on that end just to kind of, keep that dowel from moving. Set that aside, and I'm taking, as I have done in the other two projects, adding some splatters onto my ears, watered down that drop cloth paint and adding some splatters. We'll do it on the ears and on our little sign here. And then I'm going to add in a little wooden heart here. These wood hearts got from Dollar Tree at Valentine. Adding a little paper onto it, punching a little hole. I'm going to use a bulb pin, like light bulb pin. You can get these on Amazon or in the sewing section at Walmart. Put that through that punch hole and set it aside. These are the two ribbons I decided to go with. So the first ribbon, I tied it into a normal bow, and if you can see here, I wrapped some wire around it and then just cut that off. That's how I put the bow together. And in this bow, I tied it into a normal like shoestring bow. I've got another piece of this wire here, and I'm putting it through the back of the bow. I'm sorry, I'm a little off camera, but now you can see here through the back loop of that bow, and then I'm going to wire it to that other bow. Okay, make a couple of twists, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin my little heart on here on the front of our bow so it's hanging. You want long enough wires, like 12 inches off each side, because we're going to wire this through the center of our two greenery balls, okay? Kind of pull it a little bit taut, twist your wire together, cut off a little bit of excess, and then just kind of tuck the remainder of that into the back of that ball, and then kind of fluff up your bow on the front. We're going to take our ears, and we're going to kind of bend down the center a little bit. Cut our sticks down about 2 inches showing here. Now my first one, I took a skewer again, pre-poked a hole, and then poke that ear into it. Okay, which works perfectly. But then on the second one, I thought, after I pre-poked the hole, I thought I might want to add a little glue to it. So I added a little Elmer's glue to it, poked it in to that hole I already made, and I pulled the other ear back out and added some glue to it and poked it back in. So these are what it looks like. Okay, this is our whole ensemble. This part is done. Let's set this aside, move on to our basket. I'm going to take one of these bags of these stones you get from Dollar Tree and put it in the bottom of our basket to weigh that basket down. Use one of these cylinder pieces of styrofoam. I've pre-poked a hole. I want this to sit on top. So I'm going to use this super glue foam mounting tape that is super sticky and cover the entire bottom of this piece of styrofoam except for the center. Make sure you leave the center open where we poke that hole, because you got to get your dowel through that styrofoam, right? And then, remove all the pieces of the covering and stick it right down on top of those rocks. It will stick really well, I promise. And then use some of this Excelsior or something like that from Dollar Tree around the sides of the styrofoam to make it really stable so it doesn't move around on the rocks. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue our sign down here onto the front. And then we're going to go ahead and add some glue onto our dowel, and we're going to poke that down through that hole of that styrofoam we made, down into those rocks, all the way down to the bottom. Then I'm going to add some of this moss you can get at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to poke it around the sides of the bucket at the bottom of our little bunny here, just to fill it in, give it a little more of a rustic look. And then I'm going to take these lights. Now, you don't have to add lights, but I hid the battery pack in the back, add a little moss around that as well to kind of camouflage it a little bit. And I'm going to run it all the way up our bunny just to give it a little bit of a soft, fun, lighted effect. And it's nice because you can poke it and hide it in around the greenery, so it looks really cute. And then once I do that, this project is complete. So I hope you like the projects that I came up with today. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project was your favorite. I'm going to bet most of you are going to say the bunny topiary because, well, that was my favorite too. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you're not a subscriber and you like what you saw here today, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and notification bell before you click off so that you don't miss any more videos from me. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. When we are trusting God to guide us in the direction He wants us to move in life, it's important to keep our focus, not looking to the right or to the left, but straight ahead as if we have side blinders on. If we don't keep looking and moving forward, we may become distracted by the obstacles we face on either side of us. Wrong decisions can be made if we veer off the chosen path by the choices we try to make on our own without God's help. There are hundreds of decisions we make in life that can set us up for success or failure. But by listening to Jesus and keeping our eyes forward on faith with our side blinders on, you will see only the next step that Jesus wants you to take. I know that it can be fearful facing only forward and trusting God in your faith versus trying to make physical decisions on our own, because we may feel that those decisions seem safe or relevant or tangible, but it actually takes greater faith to trust in what the Lord has for us. Often those small decisions we try to do on our own can lead up to one wrong decision that may be unrepairable. So listen to what I'm saying. God does not want you to fear or worry. He will not let you trip over a rock on the wrong path. Keep your eyes focused on what He has in front of you. Trust in His guidance and trust what He's telling you to do. I'm betting someone is listening right now and you know what God wants you to do or where He wants you to go. Trust Him in that endeavor and move straight forward. Don't look to the right. Don't look to the left. Just move straight forward. Trust in your faith in God. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.